Well, here we are, folks. We get our very first Versus film in the Versus series, the Heisei series of Godzilla movies, and it is in the form of Godzilla vs. Biollante, brought to us by director Kazuki Omori, who tells the story that opens with taking place right after the events of Godzilla 85, or Return of Godzilla, where the Tokyo is still trying to clean up from its destruction, deal with the loss and remorse, and just everything that Godzilla did, because he's now the bad guy of humanity. But we also see people looking for pieces of Godzilla that could be used in bioengineering. And during one of these experiments, it causes a fatal accident of the daughter of a very highly prominent and intelligent scientist. Fast forward 5 years to what would be present day, since this film did come out in 1989, and we see that scientist has now combined DNA from Godzilla with a rose to create a Biollante, this huge, gigantic plant that is ever evolving and is just gigantic. And meanwhile, we have a bioterrorist group who is trying to hold the country hostage by threatening to wake up Godzilla, who's sleeping in a volcano. And due to some series of unfortunate events, as you would imagine, Godzilla does wake up. And Godzilla goes after Biollante, and we see how these two go head to head to see who will win and who will either save humanity from the big nasty green guy or fail and let the big nasty green guy run rampant on Earth. Yeah, this is a quirky, odd film. It was designed, and we kind of know how this goes before. We've done this before, where Toho held a contest for the fans to help contribute to the Godzilla series. In this case, it wasn't just a hero like they did back with Godzilla vs. Megalon and choosing Jaguar from kids who designed heroes. No, they got a whole script that they asked from Japanese fans of the series, and they picked this one, which they really retooled a bit, because the monster originally was, I guess, supposed to be some like radioactive rat type creature or something. Instead, we get this plant creature, and we get this theme of the evils of bioengineering and should it be done and how dangerous it is, as well as the past coming back to haunt the world in the form of Godzilla and his nuclear energy and radiation. And I liked that we have the old threat versus the new threat in here, and both are deadly and big, mean nasties. I love the design of Biollante quite a bit. It was a very elaborate costume, an interesting design, though if you miss the resemblance of Biollante, especially its final form with Audrey 2, if you miss that similarity, you're not exactly paying attention, because yes, there was influences of Little Shop of Horrors musical on the design of the Biollante character. Now, as far as the human stories go, it's interesting because we get something similar to the feel of a Ishiro Honda film, where we get a very intriguing human story. This case, it's kind of a spy corporate espionage thing, people competing for Godzilla pieces mixed in with the Godzilla fight with Biollante. But unfortunately, Kazuki is not Ishiro Honda, and you could tell he really wanted to do more of the spy thing than the monster thing, and he forced as much of the spy stuff in here as possible, and it just doesn't quite jive. It's kind of messes with the overall pacing and tone and the narrative, because it gets a little clunky working this in there. You know, you get some of these scenes in here that have nothing to do with Godzilla, which is what you kind of want to see, and yeah, I just didn't think it quite worked out. And the box office in Japan spoke as well, because to Toho's expectations, it did very poorly, unfortunately. And again, here we have a chance where people want something new and different, and the minute they get it, they don't support it at the box office, so the filmmakers think that's not what you want, and that's what happens here. So the rest of the Versus series will be classic monsters, possibly reimaginations of the classic monsters coming back. I haven't actually watched any in this series, so I'm very excited to check it out. As far as Godzilla vs. Biollante goes, we do get a significant contribution to this series of Godzilla films in the form of the character Miki Saegusa, who has ESP, and at one point she actually takes on Godzilla. It's a really badass scene, actually. And apparently she was supposed to be a one-off character, but we are going to get used to seeing this character because she apparently shows up again throughout this series of films. So I'm looking forward to see how they work her character into that. The Godzilla suit himself is more badass than the one we saw in Godzilla 85. They made it to fit the actor better. He's got a meaner face. They took out the whites of his eyes, so he's kind of got this really darkness to him. He is a little bit leaner, and yeah, I really like the design of the Godzilla film. He's much fiercer and scarier in this one, but so is Biollante. Biollante isn't really the nicest looking creature either. So Godzilla vs. Biollante is a slight misstep coming out of the gate after rebooting this franchise, namely with its fans. I think it's interesting, it's different, and it's worth a watch, but it is a little clunky in its pacing and its tone, and yeah, the music as well. They do use some cues from the original fantastic theme, the March of Godzilla, and the main Godzilla theme. They do work those in there, which is always great to hear, because the score was originally composed before the composer ever saw a frame of film. I'm not sure how that happens, but yeah, so they worked some of those classic cues in there, which really help get this movie along. So let me know what your thoughts of Godzilla vs. Biollante is. Did you like it? Did you like seeing something different? Would you have rather seen more original monsters show up? Or do you think it's more a better approach to go back to the classics because that was the bigger box office draw? Love to hear your thoughts on that. Please check out our Patreon if you haven't already. I thank you for your support, and until next time, remember, keep that ticket stub.